We are about to start our African Continental Free Trade Agreement session. If you are interested to know more about our African collaboration and regional trade that is happening, the momentum that is happening on the African continent, please join us. My colleague Rosie will do the welcoming remarks. Over to you, Rosie, from AfCFTA.
Good afternoon. I know that we have competing sounds roundabout. We will try to raise our voices. I want to welcome you all, Excellencies, esteemed participants. A very warm welcome to this AfCFTA forecast session on strategic investments in digital public infrastructure. We are delighted to have you join us today at the AIM 2025. This is our third session in the AIM sessions. So we are very glad that we have this platform to talk to you, to talk to one another about the frameworks that are existing in the continent to push investment and seamless trade in the continent. So this session comes at a very opportune time as Africa's digital transformation is recognized as a critical enabler of regional integration, economic growth, and trade facilitation under the AfCFTA, which is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Digital infrastructure encompassing vital components such as broadband connectivity, data centers, and fintech solutions is essential for unlocking the vast intra-Africa trade and investment opportunities and enhancing competitiveness of Africa's enterprises. Africa, as you know, boasts a young and rapidly growing population, increased mobile connectivity, and a thriving tech ecosystem. However, to fully leverage on these opportunities, targeted investments are crucial, particularly in digital public infrastructure. These include digital payments, digital identities, and data exchanges, which are vital for overcoming infrastructural gaps. So under the AfCFTA framework, African countries have adopted the Protocol on Digital Trade, establishing a single continental digital market with harmonized regulations, standards, and principles. Complementing this, the AfCFTA Protocol on Investment provides a strategic framework to attract and facilitate investment, enhancing investor confidence, and promoting cross-border capital flows. The twin effect of these protocols aim to create a conducive environment for scaling digital infrastructure and services, ultimately strengthening Africa's competitiveness in the global digital economy. Now today, we have three broad objectives of this session. One is to increase awareness and the understanding of the AfCFTA protocols on digital trade and investment, to foster engagement and discussions amongst the policymakers, the investors, and the digital service providers that we have today, and to mobilize investment in Africa's digital public infrastructure and broader digital infrastructure. So therefore, your active participation and insights will be invaluable in achieving these objectives and strengthening the collaborations for the implementation and the effective implementation of which of these critical protocols. So we look forward to a very productive and insightful session. And once again, a very warm welcome to this important discussion. And with that, I want to welcome Lamia. Please come over. Please take over. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Great. Thank you, Rosalind, for the great keynote and welcoming everyone. Actually, I am Egyptian, as I mentioned on the first session. So as a proud Egyptian and African and Arab, Egypt is located at the crossroads between the Middle East and Africa and transforming. Exactly what is happening on the African continental is that we try to transform our rich natural resources and into a sustainable innovation and knowledge-based economies across the continent to benefit more for the African citizens. When we look at Africa, figures are really promising. As Rosalind just mentioned, our population is a young population. So 60% of our African nation, we are young people under the age of 25. The African Continental Free Trade Area is basically about uniting 1.3 billion inhabitants, African citizens, that contribute 3.4 billion or trillion dollars economy. Ladies and gentlemen, it means this is a large economic and trade union after the WTO, since the WTO establishment. So, if you would like to know more about how we are African citizens, we are looking at getting unification and getting together and trading among ourselves, abolishing trade barriers and non-trade barriers, and looking at opportunities and to collaborate more than dividing ourselves and imposing taxes and all the things that we see on the global level now. We, on the contrary, as Africans, we are looking at things into a very positive dimension. So if you are interested to know more about what is being done, the momentum now that is created with the African Continental Free Trade Area, the momentum that is happening across the continent, how we are collaborating together, I encourage you highly to listen to the coming panel and also to the keynotes with His Excellency Wamkele Mene afterwards. And as Rosalind mentioned, I highly encourage you to be active and to contribute to the discussions. By doing this, I would like to welcome our dear Garike Nongo, Senior Communication Manager, Co-Develop, our next moderator. And please, over to you, Gariko, to introduce our distinguished panelists.
Thank you very much for that, Lamia, and thank you as well, Rose, for the introductory remarks. Now, you know, they say they save the best sessions for just after lunch so that we can test the mettle of the people who will be sitting with us. So here we are, the best session of the day. A round of applause, please. Now, my name is Garikai Nongo, and I'll be the host, moderator for this session. My task is to move the traffic and then get us to be discussing the work around direct investments around digital public infrastructure. Now, a few years ago, His Excellency Wamkele Mene came together with his team and they dared to dream. What they said is, what would happen if we turned Africa into a single market of 1.3 billion people? And so they went to the work of getting this done. Now, forgive my hyperbole, but if you think about it this way, if you've got a market of 1.3 billion people and one of you is to develop an app, we can easily become a unicorn in no space of time. That means we're creating potential and the ability to create and drive people out of poverty. That's no small thing. And so in this session, we're saying, look, let's talk about it. So in order to talk about it, allow me to bring together the panelists that we're going to have. So first, representing the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration, and Employment from the Gambia, Honorable Maud A.K. Seka. A round of applause. Also introducing a man I had lunch with today, and a man with unbounded energy, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tahir Gozel. Then representing the AfCFTA, and it's a man who's done a lot of the work in terms of what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to hear how that work translates. Please put your hands together for Dr. Tokmo Chidede. Then, in addition to that, we're going to have the Deputy Executive Director from the World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies, Dushant Thakur. Dushant. Help me to welcome the Managing Partner at iCapital Group, Senegal, Mamadou Madana Kane. And then last but certain... this brings our panel to a close. Okay. Oh, forgive me. Last but not least, Mr. Waleed Fagar, the Director General of AIM Congress. Oh, he's on the way? No problem. He'll join us as we go along. Now, I think I'll start with you, Tokmo, and I think you're seated nicely and centered in the middle. Putting together an African market is no easy feat. And we're well aware that you were able to get the digital trade protocols approved, a lot of progress happening there. Now, give us a sense of what this means, especially from the front of developing Africa's digital economy and the investments that can sit around that.
Thank you very much, Garikai, and good afternoon to everyone. Indeed, the African Union organ, the African Continental Free Trade Area, we have put together a legal framework for promoting digital economy. And part of this, in the context of the AfCFTA, is to put at the heart of cross-border trade the digital technologies. And what we are seeing is the fact that we will be able to accelerate intra-Africa trade by deploying technologies. And this will help the small and medium enterprises, the African business, to leapfrog or to navigate some of the traditional trade barriers that are hindering intra-Africa trade. And we have put together this legal framework such that we have seamless cross-border digital transactions. And the digital economy is at the verge of growing. Estimations say that by the year 2025, the digital economy will be $700 billion. And what it means is there's going to be an increase in the demand with digital services, and the digital services also demand a strong or robust data ecosystem. And the investment opportunities that we have seen or will see being created by the Protocol on Digital Trade is the new digital services that were not ordinarily part of the cross-border trade. We are going to see investment opportunities in the data ecosystem because there's going to be increasing demand in the data management, data storage to enable the strong AI and digital technology ecosystem. We are also going to see a lot of investment that is coming, especially in sectors such as the music industry, the creative industry, and the digital infrastructure in general, because this is the backbone of a digital economy. Thank you.
I see you talked about leapfrogging, and that's a concept that we fully intend to come back to, and also clearly are leaving no stone unturned. Now, you've given us this sense from a continental view. Honorable Mordecai Seka, perhaps we can take it from a country view. How are you seeing this regional integration? And what do we need to make sure that we are financing it adequately? That's Mr. Seka.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. At the country level in Gambia, we are implementing the AfCFTA in full. And what is happening is, because that part of the world is so distinct that we have neighbors with Senegal, and then there is also cross-border trade to Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and Mali. So what we have initiated is like tripartite agreement to make sure that we have a corridor that's an example of trade and that can work in terms of joint special economic zones. So this is what we are doing. Now, the reason why that is important is for different reasons. In terms of investment, you can pool resources, you can attract investment in this zone. In terms of also legislation, you can also have unified legislation to make sure that it facilitates free trade, free movement of goods and services. But most importantly also, ECOWAS fielded a mission last week, and this is where we can leverage on digital. We know there are a lot of constraints in cross-border movements, but we can use digital platforms to resolve this, because a case in point is if transporters have a digital platform and they have where a centralized reporting mechanism, for instance, if they are hassled during the course of their trip, there is a immediate reporting mechanism using digital means. That how to call it, will minimize the cross-border harassments and the constraints that they face in terms of trade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mordecai Seka. I think that's powerful in terms of the use of technology to be able to mitigate some of these challenges. Tahir, I'm coming to you. I think we had an interesting discussion earlier, which I think the audience needs to hear. Please give us a sense of what's happening in your world.
First of all, it's a great privilege to be here. I will just briefly introduce myself. I am Tahir Ghazal. We are one of the largest conglomerates in CIS region. We have around 23,000 employees, $2 billion investments in Azerbaijan and neighboring countries. The idea of governance, digital governance, and bringing the whole Africa together excited me so much that I created an organization that is called Proxima Technologies. I'm sorry, is this audible? So Proxima Technologies is a technology solution company that has artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and we have a relationship with 2 government agencies in Azerbaijan, ASAN. ASAN means easy, which is the centralized front government services in Azerbaijan, where you can go to one building and have 300 services provided to you under one shop, end-to-end delivery. It is absolutely extraordinary. The level of satisfaction of people is 100%. We have till now 36 million applications, and already ASAN is talking to 25 countries how to implement this in their region and territory. At the same time, my company signed an agreement with Azer Cosmos. As you know, one of the greatest problems we have in Africa is digital penetration. And there are rural regions where land-based systems are not available. And that's where Cosmos and satellites come in. So imagine a company that can provide the whole solution of satellite communication, digital governance, and government solutions, as well as cybersecurity and AI. And it's very exciting to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tahir. I think we're going to touch more into that in greater detail, I think, as we come along, because you've piqued the interest of everyone that we've got in this audience. Dushyant, I'm coming to you now. I think we're very keen to understand the critical role that investment promotion agencies play, especially where we're trying to integrate the African continent. Give us a sense of the work that you're doing around that.
Thank you so much. Let me start by making 4 key points and to put the framework, and then we will go into specific roles, which the IPAs would play. I hope I'm audible?
I think a little closer.
Okay. I hope this is better. Right? So essentially 4 key points. First, you guys at AfCFTA have given the real foundations already in place. With these 2 frameworks on digital trade and investments, the whole continental level, thing is already now in place. The second point would be that in Africa, we have an opportunity to leapfrog. See, a lot of countries really need to go on that path, which we see today as a very big advantage, because they can really jump in and really go to the front of the row. And that's something not even some of the European countries can today look at doing, because they're so deeply invested in their existing systems for the last 3 to 4 decades. So this leapfrogging would be the second point. Third point would be a country-specific adoption. So each country is different. We heard, Egypt, and then we also heard from, another country. So each country will also have its own country-specific adoptions which would be there, which would lead us to the national digital investment roadmaps. That becomes the 4th thing. Each country would come out with its roadmaps. I really see a roadmap as nothing but a set of bankable, investable, or PPP projects. And also the Pan-Africa support, with the whole PATIA, the Pan-Africa Investment Agency, with VIPA. Now, with all of these things in mind, let's get down to what really would the role of an investment promotion agency be. First, let's look at the investment life cycle. The first stage is basically the strategy part. That's where embedding DPI into the country's strategy, into the investment strategy, becomes absolutely essential. From there on, as we move into the whole targeting, what does an IPA do? It has to go after specific investors, right? Can it just generally go after investors? That won't give us the results that we need. We need specific results. We need data centers. We might need a fiber optic cable. We might need, any of these solutions. It has to be very targeted. Identifying those companies which are into that segment and then going after them, that's really what the IPA would do. Bankable, investable projects. Now, the investment agency might either itself create those projects or it might become the custodian of the projects, because promotion of the projects in any case come down to the IPA. That becomes the third part. The fourth is the facilitation, and this is really at the heart of it. If we need to get this going in Africa, let's ensure that there's true ease of doing business. I might need maybe 30, 35, 40 specific approvals and clearances when I'm, let's say, setting up a small mobile phone assembly unit. Ensuring that these approvals come in time are very important, and that's the real role which IPA has to play. And finally, aftercare. That's where it is also all about ensuring that, the message, whatever's coming from the industry, hearing what do investors say, and then converting it into policy, defining the right incentives. Those I see really is the cycle which an investment agency would do. A lot of work to be done by the African countries, by the IPAs, and we are there along with the AfCFTA, standing, step by step with them.
Dushyant, you've given 4 powerful points, and you've also said the word leapfrogging. Talk more when you started, said the word leapfrogging. And off to a gentleman who is not afraid to leapfrog himself. Mamadou, I'm coming to you in terms of the work that you do at iCapital. Now, we tell ourselves that we need $100 billion annually, with a B, to finance Africa's digital infrastructure. And at iCapital, I know you're hitting that gap. Give us a sense of the work that you're doing and how this can help the African integration.
Thank you, Chair, and give me the opportunity to apologize because I just arrived and landed. I didn't get a chance to meet you before. So don't be surprised that I might be sleeping from time to time because this is 48 hours I have not slept at all.
You're doing well so far.
But anyway, thank you very much. I congratulate the organizers for this important event. As we didn't meet, I don't know under which hat I should speak. I don't know whether I should speak as an investor or as a development finance practitioner or as a lawyer, simply.
I think all three sound good.
Okay, so let's go then. But I think the key to all what we are talking about is about funding. We may have the will to, digitalize our economy, to, help transform our economies with roads, with whatever we want, with human development, expanding, supporting our people. But if we don't have the money, we won't achieve anything. And we all know that public digital infrastructure is capital intensive. So where are we going to take the money is the key question. Who is going to fund those infrastructures? So I think we have 4 to 5 key players. First one is the governments. Because they own those infrastructures, they are the depository of public interest. They should be at the forefront. But government face challenges. We all know that, especially African governments. The first challenge is, of course, access to funding, to concessional funding. Because obviously, digital infrastructure is not something you see. It's not like roads or airports. And often government don't prioritize it and make it in their budget. with budget constraint, fiscal policy space limited, most government would tend to prioritize schools, hospitals, airports, roads. So in addition to the heavy debt burdens that will make access to funding quite limited. So I think that's the key challenge for that player, that is the government, to play its pivotal role in funding those infrastructure, public digital infrastructure. The second key player are DFIs, right? Because they are here to fund development finance institutions. But who do they provide funding to? They provide funding to governments or to private sectors when those DFIs have private sector window. But the key issue here is the size of the funding. Because as I said, these are capital intensive investments, and generally it is very hard to get this large amount of funding from those DFIs in support of those public needs. So there is a huge challenge over there as well. You have the private funds, right, who can come with large amount of money to fund this kind of project. But the key challenge over here as well is the investor who invests in funds, because the fund manager is getting the money from pension funds, from other institutional investors, and he doesn't want to take risk, right? Doesn't want to take risk, one, and he wants to maximize return, or at least he want to limit his risk and maximize his return. How is he going to achieve that in our environment? That's where I think the issue of investment protection, the protocol on investment protection of the AfCFTA can play a good role. But definitely that is also a challenge for those investment funds. How can we make sure that they minimize risk while maximizing the return? In that aspect, I think the political risk is the main challenge that our countries are facing. We have, as you know, various institutions that can provide political risk insurances and mitigate risk one way or another, but that remains a big challenge that we need to overcome, I think, to achieve that funding. So all in all, and let us not forget as well that this kind of infrastructure are very sovereign oriented. So who remains? Private sector is the key enabler to me for achieving the funding in this area. But when we talk about private sector, we talk about foreign direct investment. The foreign investors who are coming, like the industry players, when they will come with their money to invest, they are going to request certain kind of securities or assurances to put their money in. One of them would be definitely to be able to pledge over the assets they are financing, to have collateral over the assets they are financing. And these assets are often very sensitive from a security point of view. If we talk about the large infrastructure, right, broadbands, data centers, would our governments agree in a project finance type of structure, agree to pledge or to give those assets as collateral? That would remain a huge challenge, I think, to be discussed. So there are various challenges, I believe, but to my view, one very big limitation of the protocol on digital trade, what I would have loved to see over there is really a solution for access to large-scale funding for this kind of infrastructure. And I think it's not too late, because we have continental institutions that are here to do that, to finance those kind of funding. But what the research has shown that so far, what they focus on is mainly on micro infrastructure for financial inclusion. And I think there is room to do more. When I think of Afrexim Bank or the African Finance Corporation or the African Development Bank or such kind of institution, I think there is way to bring together all the efforts to maybe set up large-scale facilities focusing on digital infrastructure, because the key challenge for us will be to have access to this amount of funding at a cheaper rate, because that is also going to be a huge challenge for our governments to access funding at cheaper rates.
True.
So I think with those institutions coming and de-risking those financing, and bringing in some level of concessionality, we can achieve the objective despite all the challenges. Let me stop there.
You've touched on a few points right there, Mamadou, which I think are important. And one of the questions that you asked was about securing capital. And thankfully, we have on this very panel someone representing the Gambia, who perhaps could give us a sense of whether policy measures are needed to secure investments within the digital economy, and if these policy measures could also happen on a cross-border level, or they can only happen on a country level. I think that would make Mamadou feel more comfortable.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator, once again. Sorry. I think at the national level, some of our industrial policies should also reflect digitization as much as possible. Having said that, I give you a few examples between Senegal and Gambia, where there are existing or potentials for these industrial products. You have the issue of cross-border zones can serve as critical blueprint for scaling AfCFTA digital trade, products. Just a moment, yeah. Sorry. Okay, just give you a few examples. You have agro-processing, logistics, in energy, in broadband, for instance, connectivity. So these are areas that we can leverage to make sure that at least we make big impact. There are a few key policies that we need to look at. Digital industrial parks, because we need to work on having regional industrial parks so that it can encourage startups and all those things in terms of development. Then also we need to look at PPP arrangements, because like he's saying, you have constraints in funding, but the private sector is there awash with money, and you can easily leverage and get them participate. In addition to that, also you also need to develop skills, digital skills in the region. I think is not very much developed. So in Gambia, for instance, we have just established a university of engineering, science, and technology, mainly to reskill the youths so that they can go out in the market and find a very useful employment. In addition to that also is the investment environment, because if the legislations and the practice in investments at country levels are not predictable, then it leaves much room for investors. You cannot attract them, because when they want to come to a country, they want to make sure the investment field is level. They want to ensure that, for instance, ownership. You cannot just wake up and nationalize their investments. So those rules and regulations have to be very transparent. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for that intervention. Talking about fertile ground for investment, Tahir, I'm coming to you, but I'm going to add a layer of complexity to the question I'm asking you. People will tell you that Africa has a strong demographic dividend. Of the 1.3 billion people on the continent, 60% are youths, and if numbers are to be believed, at the current growth trajectory in 2060, 1/3 of the world will be African. And therefore, as an investor coming in, what are your plans to use that demographic dividend to be able to achieve economic integration across the continent?
Thank you. I will tell you my experience. Can I use yours? we businessmen, we try to find practical solutions everywhere. I think what is most impressed me till now in my life story in Africa, working with delegates, is the quality of leadership. You know, difficulty in life, regions that suffer create leaders. It's just in our human nature that when we are in prosperity, like in Europe, I find a lot of leaders are not grounded. So first of all, the quality of leaders that I've met. As an investor, what do I want? First of all, I want a counterparty. I want to be taken seriously. What I miss in my life is time. I don't have time. So for me to have an organization like AfCFTA to come and say to me, Tahir, do you know what? All these countries, I have now a protocol on digital trade. I have a protocol on investment. You're secure. Through this gate, I will open your door to here. Africa has 18% of the world population, 20% of the world landmass, 3% of the world GDP. That's $1 trillion opportunity. And what is missing here? Digital, physical and digital infrastructure. It's a lot of opportunities. I see that. And what I expect as an investor is within AfCFTA, I want people on the opposite side that can take my hand one-to-one. You know how when you have startups, you have these incubation centers, you take care of them. I need my own incubation center in Africa. I need somebody to show me, to guide me. If I'm an investor, the way I want to invest in Africa, if I ever do, which I'm here to do, I want to do it through African minds, African leaders. I want to find African youth that care for Africa. And I remember in Azerbaijan, me and my father started our business by carrying 2 kilogram vegetable oil packs in a small office. And now it's a $2 billion organization. That fire in me, how we did this, it's called the love of giving. You ask yourself, what will I give? Not what will I take? And I want a group of extraordinary African minds next to me, guiding me, who are passionate about giving. Now, of course, what I have to give here is my patience. To be a strategic investor, whatever I bring here in Proxima Technology, softwares, everything I offer for free. I don't want any government to pay me $1 million. What I want to do is say, go to through AfCFTA, say, listen, I will save you billions by digitization. Now let's make a revenue model where I can create an organization in Africa by Africans. And this organization will save and will earn. It must earn. And this organization will grow. And my dream is maybe in future, some of the greatest African leaders emerge from this organization, having a private investment ideas, having known all the challenges in the transformation. And then you're participating in the future of the continent. That would excite me as an investor. Thank you.
Tahir, that's powerful. By Africans, for Africans, and feeding from African minds. I think that truly taps into the dividend. A round of applause for that, please. Now, I think all the panelists here have talked about opportunities. Tokma, I'm coming to you. The work that you and the team at the AfCFTA have done is to build opportunities across the entire African continent. How exactly, in your view, is the digital trade protocol creating opportunities for investors across the continent?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Garikai. The problem that we have without the protocol on digital trade in Africa was fragmentation of regulations. It is different from other areas, for example, trade in goods and trade in services, whereby within a region they have adopted a legal framework which liberalizes trade in goods or trade in services within a particular region, which is something that is absent from a digital economy or digital trade perspective. And without that comprehensive legal framework that unites a region and even a continent, you would find that investments are concentrated in a few countries, that those investments are driven by several market factors: the size of the economy, the size of the population. Then it leaves some countries where opportunities arise. For example, you have countries like Lesotho, Botswana, Namibia. The population is plus or minus 2 million. And because the investments are concentrated, and as an investor, you're not interested in investing in a small economy. But now with this legal framework that we have, Africa is now a single digital market, whereby if we are registered as a digital business in one economy, you now have access to the entire continent. The market size, which is 1.4 billion. That is the added advantage that we have with the protocol on digital trade. On top of that, the protocol puts at the center the small and medium enterprises. So it creates a level playing field for both large, small, micro, and medium enterprises, as well as youth entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs through digital technology. And this is the reason why at the heart of the protocol, there are legal commitments. And by the way, this protocol is a legally binding instrument, which means countries have agreed to domesticate legal frameworks to ensure that there's seamless cross-border digital transaction. We have put at the heart of these legal commitments digital public infrastructure. Why did we look at digital public infrastructure? The focus was not only we scale up local and then we start up local and then we scale up cross-border. Digital public infrastructure focusing on seamless digital payments, digital identities, to make sure that there is trust in the digital economy, as well as the importance of cross-border movement of data. When you are transacting across the border, whether through a digital identity or digital payment, there is movement of data. And because of the fragmentation, you would find that most of the countries, they have these data restriction regulations whereby you are not able to move your data across the borders. Now with the protocol on digital trade, this has been liberalized and it enables and facilitates cross-border, of course, secure and safe cross-border data transfers. The protocol on digital trade is just one but of many legal instruments within the AfCFTA. The AfCFTA is a rules-based arrangement. The protocol on digital trade is anchored on many other legal instruments of the AfCFTA. I will mention here in particular the protocol on investment. The protocol on investment creates Africa as a preferred investment destination, with investment facilitation obligations to ensure that the registration, the entry of investment is facilitated, and there's harmonization of rules. Also, investment protection. Once you have invested in Africa, now we are abiding or adhering to same commitments when it comes to investor protection. Your investment are protected, and this cuts across the entire continent. Now this harmonization creates this conducive environment where there's investor protection, investor confidence. Most importantly is, in the digital economy, is the protection of intellectual property rights. We have a protocol on intellectual property rights, which protects the innovations that we are going to have in the continent. And today, most of the companies who are operating in the continent, they are registered outside the continent just because of intellectual property rights regimes, which are also fragmented at the domestic level. And what we have done in the protocol on digital trade is to ensure that we promote the growth of African grown solutions, African digital solutions, And this is also anchored on the protection of this intellectual property rights. So these are just a few legal instruments. So from a legal point of view, we have managed to solve that. Now coming back to the issue of finance, of course, access to finance to implement most of these things, especially from a digital public infrastructure, there is a lot of money that is being required to make sure that the businesses operate. There's investment that grows such that we do not have only Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Egypt being the hub of the digital economy, being the digital economy hubs in the continent. We want all the other small economies also to have this investment coming into the continent. That is why this legal framework allows you, if you are registered in a particular country, you don't have to go and register yourself in every country. You have the right to operate across the continent. If you have a platform that is registered in one country, you have access to sell your products in multiple countries. The issue of finance, one of the things that, of course, agreeing to what he said, we need public partnerships, public-private partnerships. Governments, of course, they will have to invest, but knowing very well and seeing the challenges that most of our governments, due to debts and many other constraints that they face, they will not be able to finance the digital infrastructure. And the protocol, we have catered for that. And even recently, during the adoption of the 8 annexes of the protocol on digital trade, the Assembly, the African heads of state and government, they have given this directive to the AfCFTA Secretariat in AfroZimbank to develop this AfCFTA Digital Trade Fund, whereby we attract investment from multiple investment partner foundations, philanthropies, private equity, government donations, and many other, such that we have this pool of funds that is going to supply and cater for other economies that might not be able, in their own right or in their individual economies, to attract investment. So this is what we have looked at from a broader perspective, and also putting this perspective that the digital economy is not only to promote businesses. It's about promoting and empowering individuals. It's about empowering the small and medium enterprises who are not able to navigate the complexities within the continent, with different legal instruments, with different infrastructures, different currencies, and many other complexities. So this legal framework creates this level playing field, whereby if you are businesses, you are subjected to the same rules and regulations, whether you're a big business or smaller businesses. And that is what we have done at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Tokma. I think that deserves a round of applause, surely. I think as you were giving your response, I saw Tahir and Mamadou nodding furiously at various points. And I know, Dushyant, you have something you want to add there. But before I come to you, Dushyant, just to let the audience know that we want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions you want to give to the panel, please do raise your hands. We'll get a microphone over to you so that you can also get a sense of what your thoughts are around this. But please, do go ahead.
Let me add a little more money to this pool of money which is getting created. 3 more sources. First, and this is something which has worked very well in a number of sectors like roads, which is basically asset recycling. Now, if you go to an institutional investor, they will look at the risk profile and they will look at it and they'll say, hey, we can't give money for that. But as soon as you take a brownfield asset to them, right? Maybe an existing telecom company, or it could be any government-owned thing. On a brownfield assets, they love giving money. Pension funds love giving money to brownfield assets, which they know for the next 2-3 decades, they can get an assured, low level of returns. So that is one bucket which can work really well in the case of Africa. That's one. Second, till a few years ago, if you used to talk to institutional investors and ask them that, hey, would you be willing to put money aside for sustainability, for the SDGs? They were not very positive till a few years ago, but things have really changed. And similarly, in the case of digitization, I think their pockets are slowly opening up much more. So that's a second, pocket that can be leveraged. The third pocket, again, is something which I believe PATIA, the Pan-Africa Trade and Investment Agency, which is to be created, go after big tech. I can clearly see around anything between 50 to 150 large global tech companies which have already done and deployed applications in certain parts of Africa. Now, when you guys as AfCFTA have a one-on-one discussion with them, I can tell you they're going to come back with very deep pockets and they'll be ready to put in those investments. They've already deployed thing in a country A, which can then be replicated in another 5 or 7 or 10 countries. I don't think such an opportunities existed before, these protocols that you brought in place and before AfCFTA. So I would say leverage it. This is the best time to do it.
I love that. This is the best time to do it. Mamadou, you sparked this discussion. How do you see it? Is this the best time to do it?
Well, it all boils down to what I said earlier. I think key to success would be access to funding. And I told you where the money should come from and what are the challenges for getting those funding from those actors. And I think we have a large opportunity here, that is, to have our continental product institution work properly for this kind of, investment. And I think the AfCFTA, together with the other institutions, has a role to play beyond establishing the legal and regulatory and institutional framework. It is to imagine innovative product, financing product, together with the commercial banks, with the funds, with the pension funds, with DFIs, credit risk insurers, export creditors, export credit agencies, to come up with powerful tools dedicated specifically to public digital infrastructure. Because it's key to economic transformation, it's key to development achievement in all areas, because if you have good connectivity, you're gonna have good schools, you're gonna have good hospitals, and people will be more educated, good financial inclusion. So it's key, but priority, that is not, our government often do not give priority to this area, because when you talk about broadband or you talk about, submarine cables or whatever, these are not things that people see. They like to put the money they are going to borrow in things that people see. I think there is a paradigm shift to be built over here to show how important these issues are, and then come up with, I think Africa now is very much used to, complex financing structures. And the key is just to make sure that we strike the right balance between those investors coming, bringing in their money, and our interests as African governments that are going to, receive those investments. Make sure that the power of money is not going to, overrule sovereignty when it comes to those strategic, assets which are quite important. So let me stop there. I mean, but I think my call to AfCFTA is really to initiate, those discussions or initiatives for having a large-scale digital public infrastructure facility focused on large scale. I'm not talking about, the small ones, because those are already happening. But the large-scale infrastructure, access to funding on that is key, and I hope we'll get there. Thank you.
Large scale being the operative word.
Yeah.
Large scale. Yeah. Right, the floor is open for any questions that you may have. So please do show by raising your hands if you'd like to make an intervention. But while we wait for that to take place, Mordecai Seka, I'm coming to you just for your final statements and closing words for this panel.
Yeah, I think the AfCFTA is a noble arrangement, and I think Africa should have taken this step long time ago. But then we should not also underestimate the power of establishing joint
special economic zones, like what I have highlighted in our sub-region, because there are a lot of synergies you can get out of that, and also you can empower the sub-region to be able to produce things that it can trade to other African countries. Having said that, it is also critical to emphasize that you need policy predictability, policy consistency, policy coordination, and unified regulations, so that within the continent you don't have so much obstacles in terms of making sure that this happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Modeke Seka. Tahir, over to you. In terms of the words that you would like the audience to leave with from this panel. The words that you'd like the audience to leave with from this panel. Oh, yes, please. Tahir, over to you.
First of all, I want to congratulate AfCFTA and the digital trade. What you're doing is extraordinary. I think one of the greatest avenues for humanity now is without doubt artificial intelligence. And that is access to big data. And big data only comes through joint digitization of the whole continent. If we manage to succeed in doing this, and the amount of data that is in there, the amount of unicorns that Africa can produce out of that, because you can touch every aspect of life, from birth, marriage, company formation, registration, healthcare, anything. This is the future. And we are on the right track. My advice would be, I didn't know about this until I was invited. I had the honor of meeting Secretary General in Baku for COP29. And I have to say, sir, your leadership, your character, people around you, really warmed my heart, and it's an honor for me to be here. And if there's a role I can play, it will be my honor and privilege to serve. And I always say in life, I don't know, I have one principle. If you are going to serve, all of life, all of universe, and God himself is with you. If you are going to take, you're all by yourself. So find investors, take good care of them, treat them, give them the VIP service they deserve, because these are the right people. How do you do that? Introducing them to the right leaders in Africa, the HR and governments. And in my case, Azerbaijan, I'm very proud to say we contributed $10 million to the SIDS Islands to help them develop. So we are ourselves contributors. We bring finance with ourselves to our investments. So I think it's all fantastic. I think I have great hope for what is happening here. I'm coming here with a big heart, and I'm even more excited now, and I want to congratulate you for all the great things you're doing. And I look forward, if there's a role for me, it will be my honor to contribute with what I have done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Tahir, and I'm certain there is certainly a role for you to play. Talk more, the microphone is yours as you have it in your hand to give us a parting shot.
Thank you, Garikai. There is an opportunity here for Africa. This is an opportunity, digitization and digitalization. This is the only opportunity we have in this world where there's so many things that is happening from a multilateral trading system, geopolitics, geoeconomics. And if we can miss this opportunity of using digitization and digitalization to leapfrog the industrial revolutions that we have missed, there's no other opportunity that we ever get. And to the investors, to the business people, Africa is ready for business. There is political will at the highest level. You can see from the instruments that have been put together that Africa is serious about making sure that the continent as a whole, not as individual countries, is conducive for businesses. And these legal instruments have been put together to instill confidence and legal certainty that if you are to do business in Africa, you are protected. There is rules, there are institutions that will make sure that your investment are not going to be expropriated, and there are no there's no legal recourse to that. So these are my last words. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Talk more. Africa is looking like a great place to do business. Dushyant, over to you.
2 points. African investment promotion agencies, with the guidance of AfCFTA and WIPA, are actually going to be the change makers. They will be standing hand in hand with their governments, with their ministries of ICT, and making this change happen. So that would be my first point. Second, it is going to be around bankable, investable projects. Something like, I would say, 20 or 30 projects every quarter over the next 5 years. If a mechanism can be devised for this, on one side, on the other side, big tech can be tapped into. 100 of those companies. I think we're really moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that is quite powerful. Mamadou.
I would like to thank His Excellency for organizing this event and his team. I think this is a very right time to discuss these issues, which are critical to our development. I think a good move has been made already with the legal framework of the AfCFTA in place. I think the involvement of African private sector is the missing link towards really achieving what we want to achieve. When I talk about the African private sector, I don't only talk about the industry players, but I talk about the commercial bankers. I am a commercial banker, but not many commercial bankers or investment bankers know about the opportunities of the AfCFTA today. And I think there are gaps to be bridged, and an effort to be made to make sure that all the synergies are built, and so every single African institution or human being contribute to this very noble goal of making Africa a continent of prosperity. Thank you. I'll stop there.
I think this has been a powerful and multifaceted panel. A round of applause to our panelists, please. And I think we have set the pace for advancing regional economic integration across the continent. But this is not the end of this session. There's one more segment that's to come. So as I call Lamia up, I'm going to ask our panelists to take back their seats. To your applause, please maintain your seats. As Lamia calls the next session, the photograph will be taken after the next address is given, just in respect of the next speaker. Thank you, please. Lamia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Gary Kay, and distinguished panelists, for the insightful discussion and the fruitful discussions. Now I would like to call His Excellency, Secretary General, Mr. Wamakele Mene. Please, over to you for your keynote.
Thank you very much. First, let me thank the moderator and the panelists for their very, very encouraging contributions to the session today. I want to also thank AIM Congress for accommodating us here today, this afternoon. I am not going to make remarks. I think we've all heard the challenges and the opportunities that Africa's digital economy presents for investors. Our role really was to establish the regulatory framework for investors to come to invest, foreign and domestic investors to invest in Africa's digital economy. I think we've achieved that objective. When we started this exercise about 3 years ago, we were told that we will not be able to agree because some of the pillars of a digital economy are very, very difficult macroeconomic policy questions, national security questions, technology questions. And so we were told we will not be able to achieve this objective because other fora, such as the WTO, were not able to gain consensus. But of course, through the determination of our heads of states and the ministers of trade, the ministers of digital economy, we now have the first of its kind around the world, the protocol on digital trade, which again, as we have heard, its combined implementation with the protocol on investment certainly positions the continent of Africa for competitiveness in the digital economy. If you take, for example, the fact that by the year 2035, Africa will require over 700 data centers. Those data centers will employ young software engineers, will create economic opportunities throughout our continent, beyond Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Egypt, which already are attracting the lion's share of investment in terms of digital, the digital economy and the infrastructure that is required to power that digital economy. And so we see this as a very, very unique opportunity for our continent. The call to action to partner with the private sector in mobilizing investment, both development finance investment as well as private sector investment, is a challenge which we have already started to address. We have already been engaging since February when the protocol was adopted. We have been engaging private sector. We have been engaging big tech and small tech to encourage them to invest in Africa's digital public infrastructure. Our development finance institutions are well positioned, in my view, to deploy capital in investing in the building of this infrastructure, which, as we heard again from all of the panelists, is absolutely critical to driving innovation, job creation, and enabling competitiveness of Africa's digital economy. This, for us, is the opportunity. One of the panelists, if not all of them, probably mentioned the issue of leapfrogging. This is the opportunity for Africa to leapfrog and to set herself on a path to meet the projections by the International Finance Corporation that by the year 2035, Africa's digital economy is well poised to be close to $600 billion. And that $600 billion projection of Africa's digital economy must become a reality. And so we are fully conscious of what requires to be done. We discussed this during the panel. What requires to be done for Africa to seize this opportunity and to see the fruits of the labor of the protocol on digital trade. So once again, I want to thank the moderator. I want to thank the panelists for their insightful contributions. And I want to thank our partner AIM for making this platform available for us today. And importantly, I want to thank you for your attendance. Thank you very much.